Excellent!
Hello everyone and welcome to Paul's Hardware. Today's video is going to be all about X99, specifically Asus X99 motherboards. And if you're not familiar, Haswell-E has now launched. It is available. There's new CPUs, there's new motherboards, there's DDR4 memory, and there's also J.J. who has graciously agreed to speak to us and share all of his knowledge about this. So J.J., thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for guys for checking out the content.
No, really. Not just the beginning of the video standard, like, hey man, thanks for being, like, I want to thank you because you share your knowledge with everyone, and I think you have real passion for this, so I really appreciate that. And I want to dive into this. Actually, I need to give you guys a warning first off. This is going to be the long video, so if you haven't already looked at the time code down there, I don't know what it's going to end up being, but it's going to be long. We're not going to pull any punches.
We're living on the edge here.
We're going to keep talking until the cameras stop working or until our voices stop working, one or the other. So let's start by explaining where this other motherboard just came from. But all right. So what's available from Asus? At least right at launch, you guys should be able to find the X99 Deluxe available. Correct. That's the mainstream series, beautiful black and white motherboard design. We also have the X99-E,
yes,
which is going to be the, I guess, entry level, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, this is enthusiast, so everything here is going to be a little bit more expensive than the mainstream stuff, but that's okay. You're paying for performance. We also have the X99WS, the workstation right here, which looks glorious. It's the sexiest workstation board I think I've ever seen. And then, of course, the R5E Rampage V Extreme. Whoa, what happened? Okay, wow, more and more hardware just keeps appearing in front of us. All right, so here's how I wanted to start off, JJ. We have 3 new Intel CPUs that are going to be available right now. Let's tell people some of the characteristics of those, and maybe some recommendations since we're and then from there we're going to go into segmentation of these boards. Okay. So let's talk about segmentation of the CPUs first. So we have the 5820K, which is going to be, again, the kind of entry level, so to speak.
Correct. It's still a pretty high-end part. I mean, 6 core, 12 threads, 15 megs of cache, and 28 PCIe lanes.
Okay, and that is the difference there. That Intel has decided to go with a little bit less PCI connectivity for the kind of entry-level enthusiast part there.
But it's still fully overclockable.
So that's nice. It's a K SKU. It's unlocked. So and still 28 lanes of PCI is still
more than any
more,
Z97 platform.
Yeah, than anything you get with the mainstream platform. Still very nice. But that is the one thing to watch out for, is if you really need that full 40 lanes that you get with the other ones, then it might be a reason to step up to the next level, which is the 5930K.
Correct.
Which is also 6 core, also 12 threads. Yep. This one also has 15 megs of cache?
15 megs of cache, correct.
And then this one you're going to get the full 40 lanes PCI Express connectivity. Correct. Gen 3. I should point out. And then, of course, if you want the best of the best, you got to go for the X level, the Extreme Edition, the 5960X. Yeah. And that one's going to be quite pricey, but they do give you actually a compelling reason to maybe buy that one this time around, and that's because it's 8 core, 16 threads.
It's pretty beastly, and 5 more megs of cache.
So you get 20 megs of cache on that one.
20 megs of cache, it's obscene.
So I feel like as compared to last generation, or at least with Ivy Bridge E, where you looked at the Extreme Edition and then the
K part,
the 4930K, it was kind of like, really the Extreme Edition felt more like a Halo product than it did actually. But this time around, I think there's going to be folks, actually, Jay here also. Did we thank Jay?
Yes, we did.
We thank Jay
but
in this video.
There's no hurt.
I want to thank Jay again. By the way, if you haven't noticed,
you didn't thank me in this video.
We didn't thank him in this video. So we're here at Jay's 2 cents studio filming room, and thank you, Jay, for letting us film here.
We thank you for his gracious abode.
A quick aside there.
You're very welcome.
All right, so Jay's given some heavy consideration to the Extreme Edition one, just for those extra cores and for the extra benefit you'll get there from rendering and everything. Because you said in your testing, you have worked with a lot of these. It's actually a pretty significant boost that you get.
I mean, overall, I mean, just one of the big benefits that we have here is that Intel's done some really intelligent things in the overall architectural design and what's been put into the CPU. So you're getting IPC improvement compared to the previous generation, on top of all the hardware-based specification improvements, such as the number of cores, as well as the actual cache. So even architecturally, clock-to-clock performance, you get those improvements. So overall, I mean, it's really truly an enthusiast class platform, and they've really brought it to be able to really say in every single way, compared to the current high-end mainstream-based performance category, you're getting an improvement in every single respect. So you don't ever feel like you're going to get a lower performing product, whether it's going to be in relation to expansion, whether it's going to be in relation to bandwidth, whether it's going to be in relation to frequency, whatever it's going to be, this is truly the highest end platform that's out there on the market.
Okay, and then if you guys have been following stuff about Haswell and that launch, the Haswell last year and the Haswell refresh this year, that CPU architecture is what's used in Haswell-E, of course, and a lot of those features have carried over to this new platform. So we have FIVR, for example, fully integrated voltage regulation.
Correct.
So what are some of the elements of that when it comes to specifically things like overclocking?
You know, the FIVR, just like we talked about in previous generations, is really an interesting design. Previously, you know, motherboard vendors had to do a lot of work in terms of the power delivery control implementation to be able to kind of effectively manage that. So you had a lot of options how the board could engage with the processor in terms of what definable parameters could be controlled. Now, the FIVR helps to kind of equalize that to an extent in terms that all motherboard vendors now kind of have a parity position in that respect, but there's still a huge amount of work that goes into the overall topology and other aspects of the power delivery. And once again, to recap, the FIVR doesn't have anything to do with power delivery on a motherboard. All it does is pretty much just manage the control parameters and the conversion process.
It's regulating the voltage.
Yeah, so so it pretty much just comes down to in terms of making sure that voltage, I'd say parameters of adjustment are more consistent across all board vendors.
Okay.
I would say it would be how it leverages and how it benefits the consumer. But outside of that, you know, a lot of this still ultimately comes down to the quality of the tuning that goes into the UEFI and the firmware and how that works with the FIVR and how it works with the platform. And ASUS has actually done a bit specifically to certain hardware-based designs and as part of our total topology to even be able to maximize what the CPU allows for this generation and allows us to do some really interesting things in terms of scaling the cache ratio and the DRAM divider. So there's still actually a lot left on the table in terms of helping us to maximize performance.
Okay.
But definitely the FIVR being part of this overall just helps to give us a very consistent degree of tuning. But as we talk about, you know, as a whole, overclocking and things along those lines, you still have actually a fairly wide degree of variability on the CPU overclocking.
Okay.
You still get a guaranteed kind of baseline of most CPUs achieving at least about a 4 to about 4.2 gigahertz range on I'd say the worst case CPUs, but that's still a significant overclock compared to the base clock speeds. But as far as what the best case CPUs will be, best case CPUs could be anywhere between, you know, 45 to as much as 48. So when you consider the effective range being between about 4 to 4.8 gigahertz, that's still a pretty big swing.
Yeah, and the Extreme Edition has a base clock of 3 gigahertz and a boost clock of 3.3. So that's over a gigahertz that you're getting.
Correct.
In overclocking, and as JJ has tested a lot of these CPUs already, that's at the low end. So if you get that nice golden chip, you might even get beyond that. Now, so to draw a quick comparison, just to round out that FIVR discussion, was the 87, you guys showed a demo showing overclocking was the 874770K.
Yep.
Your entire series of mainstream boards and how you were able to achieve the same levels of overclock all across the entire line, whether you're talking entry level all the way up to the top.
Yep.
Is that the same kind of experience that you might have?
100%.
Okay.
We design our boards purpose-built from the perspective we don't ever want you to buy a board under the presumption that you need to buy the higher end board to be able to ensure that you get a great degree of overclocking and associated reliability and stability.
Okay.
So whether you're going to buy the Dash A, whether you buy the Pro, which will also be coming out, or you buy the Deluxe, they all can reach, you know, 4.8 gigahertz if your CPU had that capability. The margin was there. You know, if it's a 4.6 capable CPU, all of these are all equally going to be able to offer 4.6 gigahertz stability. DRAM is going to be the same thing. CPU impacts DRAM overclocking to a large degree because, once again, there's margin within the memory controller. But the work that we've done on terms of tuning the UEFI, tuning the topology and the layout, that's all giving you great DDR4 overclocking potential. And speaking to the FIVR that you just noted also, that is impacted also by board design because the FIVR doesn't handle power delivery and control for the DRAM. So we still have to put on our digital power management control for actually the quad channel memory design implementation. But all the way around, yes, any board that you're going to get, you can have a great overclocking experience.
Okay, so don't necessarily buy the R5 Extreme because you think it's going to overclock your CPU better.
Yes.
But there's many, many, many other reasons to do that, and we're going to get into all that right now.
But
so
I will caveat that
Yes.
there is kind of a little bit of to design that relates to overclocking. And so how that relates is, keep in mind that the Dash A, right, has a smaller heatsink assembly,
yes,
right, than what you might have on the Deluxe. So of course the overall thermal efficiency of the VRM is going to be better on the Deluxe. So in terms of the load that you might put on it when in overclocking, this will give you better thermal efficiency and better overall, thermal performance as you load the VRM under high overclock scenarios. So if you're somebody that kind of cares about that to a degree, this is still going to be great performing, and it's not going to stop you from being able to overclock. But as you get to more aggressive levels and you load it up, is there a little bit of difference in those regards? Yes. And there also would be improvements further in terms of the power componentry, right? The WS and the ROG boards will even have higher grade power delivery systems than what's offered on the Deluxe. So same thing overall. Will they be able to run with better thermal efficiency and better thermal characteristics, and potentially even be able to hold a little bit better loads at higher frequencies? Yes. But overall, from a realistic perspective, for what most users care about in terms of their target frequencies, they're going to have a consistent experience. There also will be always a bit of a difference on ROG boards where we push it to the next level in terms of the level of kind of tweaking and tuning and granularity at how you can define your overclock.
Because exotic cooling, right? There's a lot of features.
Not necessarily just exotic cooling. There are actually specific tuning parameters that we put into the UEFI. Sometimes even on a hardware topology layout, specifically is tuned to give us certain tolerances that we can push more in one direction than we might do on any other board. But that might come into users saying, most users are probably only going to buy 2133 to probably 2400 memory. Some of you guys might jump into maybe higher grade kits. Like here, we've got this awesome Corsair memory. It's 2800. This is 2666. These are really high performance based kits. But we've even done validation with Corsair for 3000 and 3200. Right? Now, if you get into that class, there's tweaking and tuning you might want to be able to do. And keep in mind, we've even seen DRAM where you can go from like 2133 to 3000 on some DIMMs. So having fine-tuned characteristics of how you can tweak and tune that is also kind of another element that's built into the DNA for an ROG board.
And then you were saying earlier for memory that we're just looking at the beginning right now as far as DDR4 is concerned. We're potentially going to see 4,000 and upwards in the future.
It's not a question of if. You will see it. It's just a question of when.
All right, perfect. So from there, let us move into segmentation, because when it comes to ASUS and ASUS motherboards, you can't necessarily just look at the price and figure this is the expensive one that's better and this is the less expensive one that's maybe not as better. ASUS designs boards specifically for use case scenarios and specifically for segments of the market that you feel will get the most benefit out of the features that are integrated. So shall we begin with mainstream?
Well, the mainstream series is really that. It's actually trying to target the widest range of our users. When we design the boards, as you noted initially, we have ROG, which is segmented towards overclockers and tweakers and tuners and gamers, and then WS for content creation professionals. Or general people that are going to be doing high productivity on their system. And then mainstream actually needs to be able to complement both those type of users. And maybe serve somebody that actually might be doing a little bit of all of that on their system. We don't know. So in that respect, what we want to try to do with the mainstream series of motherboards is be able to complement just about any type of usage model. So whether it comes into the level of expansion that's going to be supported, whether it's going to be in the storage configurations, whether it's going to be in the connectivity that's going to be offered, we want to really be able to try to align that with any type of user so that if they get the board, it's almost the best representation of ASUS in a lot of ways. We want you to be able to have an outstanding level of reliability, stability, features, and functionality. They should all be there. But as you progress to maybe a more specific usage model, might there be a better choice for you within the WS, within a TUF series, within an ROG series board? Yes, that's an entire possibility, but it really comes down to what's going to be that specific usage of what you're going to first and foremost be doing on your system, almost maybe more than anything else. And if you're somebody that kind of does a little bit of everything, right? Or maybe even just like the aesthetics or specific features that might be exclusive to the mainstream series, which might complement it maybe a little bit more of kind of an automatic nature, or a little bit more streamlined kind of level of usability. That's really who we try to target with. And even that's going to come down to even the usability of the board design, right? These are ATX based specification in terms of the form factor, whereas with WS and with ROG, they actually take on a little bit larger form factor. So while probably all these platforms are still high end and you're probably going to always be in a chassis that could fit any one of these, it still complements that flexibility of being able to try to find itself in more situations.
And I like, as you talk about flexibility reliability, not only in the features that are integrated into the board, but purely from an aesthetic standpoint. I feel like these days, particularly folks who are building their own system, who are DIYers and who are building a system on this platform, since it's the enthusiast platform, it's very high end, are going to be keen on aesthetics as well. So
yeah, no, definitely, and that's one of the reasons why we introduced white. You know,
I like the black and white aesthetic.
Yeah, I think it looks awesome. You know, I think our ID team did a really great job on taking a lot of the feedback that we provided to them to have something that had a fresh, modern, clean kind of vibe to it, but also complement a wide range of the new types of colors that we're seeing from PSU and from chassis vendors, but also equally can find its kind of place in a wide range of systems. It really complements a really, I think, great look and feel that's just going to be awesome, and it gives you just our board range, if you look at it color and thematically, a great amount of depth.
So any type of color scheme that you have planned for your system, you can probably integrate this. And Jay has already talked about, like, oh, you could probably remove these and do different colors with them or that sort of thing. But black and white, it's hard to clash with that too much. So very nice there. And then I like how you talk about how there's sort of a set of non-negotiables for ASUS, where these are the features we know everyone's going to want.
Yes.
You're going to find those in the mainstream series of boards for sure, as well as some additional features that you feel will fit pretty much everyone's needs, depending on who you are, of course.
And that's a really important point, because, you know, historically, when you take a look at board design, that hasn't always been a trend. I mean, for ASUS now, going on multiple generations, it has been for us. Whether it's in UEFI, whether it's in fan control, whether it's in advanced connectivity options, whether it's going to be like USB 3 boost or USB BIOS flashback, even Intel NICs, things like that, we're starting to pretty much just put on every single of kind of the enthusiast class level boards, because we want those features to not be a reason why you're going to jump from one board to another board. That should be the expectation. It should be the given. What should make the board different is going to be specific points of usability or functionality which align more specifically with a certain type of user.
Nice. Okay, so let's move on to the... Actually, wait, a quick question for you before we move on to the workstation. There's another series of boards in the mainstream, or at least in
our normal kind of motherboard segmentation.
The non-enthusiast platform, the Tough series, which I've always been a big fan of, and I'll let you guys know. I've already asked JJ this before, so I know the answer. But is there going to be a Tough Series X99 board, JJ?
There actually will be a Tough board. We're still currently working on design and development. As you guys know, we take the board design really seriously, and we want to make sure that we have an awesome board in terms of its feature set and functionality. And really, this has taken a huge amount of design work just to put out all these guys. But there will be a Tough coming to the market for you guys that are always excited about what we're doing under the Tough family.
Nice. And the qualities of the Tough series, I mean, if you aren't patient, or if you're just not a big fan of military color scheme, I guess, the Workstation series of boards shares some, I feel like, some of the characteristics of that, just in that the quality of the components you guys have chosen in here are really meant for a long-term use and reliability, and that's where the Workstation comes from as well. Whether you're talking about a workstation or a server, this board is really designed for people who are relying on the computer that they use for their day-to-day work. They want it to be reliable. They want it to no component on here to ever have a chance of failing, and they want to make sure that it, of course, has all the power that they need. So, is that a fair assessment of Workstation?
I'd say it's pretty close. You know,
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple of kind of halo points, right? One is going to be just a depth of expansion flexibility. WS boards are always going to generally offer more connectivity in terms of kind of what you can do on expanding upon the board.
Okay.
So that's of course evident by the number of PCI Express slots.
There's a lot of those. So this is more than 40.
Yeah.
JJ,
Because we have, of course, actually PLX implementation on the board.
Like, so 40 wasn't enough. You got to jump.
You got users that want to be able to have not only GPUs, maybe high-end RAID controller cards, maybe multiple HDMI capture cards. There could be a lot of different configurations. WS also historically always has dual NIC implementations for maybe, let's say, connecting to your intranet, as well as being able to connect to the internet, right? Or maybe you want failover support built into it. There's also generally going to be very advanced, robust storage configurations, although all X99 boards have a lot of storage configurations available onto them. And then also validation is a very big part of WS boards.
Okay.
They go through an even more stringent process than our traditional boards in terms of reliability and validation testing, especially for complex devices. We do special option run validation for complex cards, like high-end RAID controller cards, Quadro Tesla cards, FireGL, Fire Pro. All these type of devices, you know, they can be very expensive. So if you buy, let's say, a $200, $400, $500,000 add-in card, you want to know that it works. This is something that a traditional user that builds a productivity or gaming related system is probably not dropping those type of devices in. So this is where a key area where the WS product differentiated itself. But at the same time, could this just make an awesome high-end gaming system? For sure.
Easily, easily. I think Jay was Jay has machinations on this board. Let's just put it that way. And that was the first thing that my mind went to when you talk about the PCI Express connectivity. Is like a Quadro with a stack of Teslas in there, something like that.
That
or
could
a
be,
stack of
or you know, I mean, we're
cards.
doing videography right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we actually get a lot of users right now, especially with 4K progressing into more accessible price points. You're seeing guys put in just one GPU and they're doing like 3 to 4 HDMI capture cards, pulling in from multiple camera sources, and then letting the system do all the active tuning.
Nice.
You can imagine now in like Premiere or Vegas or these linear editing programs, you have multi-camera angle adjustment abilities. This is the type of platform that's purpose-built for that stuff, and it gets really exciting.
Beautiful. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of high-end workstations, and of course, since we do video specifically for that, really excited to see what type of stuff folks are going to come out with there. Any other last words on the workstation?
No, I think that covers it. But you know, we talked about video a lot, but really, I think content creation as a whole. You could be doing everything from 3D modeling to audio editing and production to video editing and production. You could also be in entirely different houses. You know, we get actually people that do analysis and research, financial work. You know, you can imagine guys that are doing actually trading. They're running sometimes 4 to 6 panels.
Yeah.
They're doing high computation processing. There's a crazy amount of environments, and like you said, at the end of the day, it's a board built for expansion, stability, and reliability. It's going to get the job done. So
beautiful. All right, so that's the workstation. Now, this is the ROG series board. This is the R5E or Rampage V Extreme, and the ROG series has had such a magnificent run for quite some time now. I feel like pretty much anyone who's like your super extreme overclocker, super extreme gamer, anyone who wants to do exotic cooling, liquid LN2, dry ice, anything like that, I feel like the ROG series has really set the standard in that area for a very long time. And then the other thing that we've discussed before with ROG is I feel like you guys take more risks with this board. And that's not risks as far as like anything that could possibly affect stability, but the ideas that you come up with to drop into the board that you don't see elsewhere because they're unique, they're different.
Yeah.
But we've seen that type of innovation trickle down to the other series in the past.
You're 100% right. You know, we kind of treat ROG almost in the same way that, you know, Ferrari treats its Formula One team, right? And taking a lot of advanced technologies and how that might try to find its way into the consumer high-end Ferrari, right?
Oh yeah.
But that's kind of the same concept. Is we really try to treat the ROG product design group with a sense of saying, push the envelope. Think about things that might not be possible or buck the trend, even if they're more expensive, even if they're more complex, and put it onto the board. And it's a way that we've also used that to leverage a lot of key technologies that have found their way into the other products over time. In a lot of ways, if you're somebody that supports ROG, you're helping to support pushing the industry forward. You know, the most advanced fan control functionality that we now are offering here really came from ROG having way more advanced fan controls than competitors did for a long period of time. Digital power delivery and control, way before Intel even had a thought of doing the FIVR, was being put first on the Rampage V Extreme to be able to push in the era of saying digital power delivery and control is the right direction to move motherboards, right?
They said you were crazy, but
well, you know, you had actually even competitors, right? They still said analog designs were better, and then all of a sudden they all started switching to digital, and then you see now FIVR is built into all the CPUs.
now everything's digital.
Yeah, and you know, and all these little interesting ways, whether it's in the topology, the layout, the hardware-based accessory implementations, all those things we definitely do treat ROG as kind of an innovation platform to say, let's push the envelope and let's really complement it towards the tweakers, tuners, and gamers. And you know, I think if you look at what the industry has done in terms of also embracing gaming motherboards, that was really born from the designs that we've done on ROG, and that's really what it is. If you're looking for a board that is about tweaking, tuning, and really complementing a gamer, that's where the feature set is going to lie. Could you entirely use this board for financial work? We actually do. You'd be surprised. I get guys that do financial analysis and do day trading and do simulation, and they buy it because they know the ROG boards are built like tanks, right? Yeah. And they want to run it, you know. So at the end of the day, marketing exists only inside of a marketing department, right? You can build with any one of these boards in any which way that you choose. but is there going to be certain features and functions that align more closely with your usage model? Yes. So that's where ROG is. If you like to push the envelope, you like to tweak, you like to tune, you like to game, that's where the features are going to be.
Okay, so just a couple random questions just for me looking at the board right now. It looks like you have a special socket on this. Is that what's the deal with the special socket? Why is it different, and what was the reason behind that?
You know, we've put a lot of interesting design work, and we're not going to go into all the details as what we've done in terms of some specialized design implementations.
Okay.
But we've gone and made some special design implementations that really allow us to maximize the overall total platform overclocking capability, especially for the cache ratio and for DRAM capabilities, and for overall just being able to have our total topology. You know, we've talked about topology a lot in the past. Trace layout, specialized DRAM layouts, right, to be able to give you guys the best experience possible. And actually, ROG doesn't just have this. All X99 ASUS motherboards have these special design implementations to allow us to get the best experience possible from Haswell-E based processors. So that's an exclusive hardware-based design that ASUS features that allows us to push the performance envelope. But ROG does take it to the next level. You know, it has to be a 10-layer PCB along with very specialized topology and layout that's been tuned to really push the envelopes of what the platform has to offer.
Excellent. So. Not going to give up any trade secrets from ASUS here, but there's something going on with the socket. We'll figure it out eventually, I'm sure. Okay, apart from that for ROG, not only everything that's integrated onto the board itself, of course, which spec lists are available if you want to head over to the ASUS website if you want to see every single item that they've integrated onto this board. It's a very long list, but not just the board itself, but accessories. So we're maintaining the ROG. Oops, I dropped a little rubber cover there. So we have the monitoring unit. This has a special name, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, all ROG boards, of course, currently produced, all have support for what's referred to as the OC panel, which is this unit, as well as the ROG front base. So these really kind of complement, once again, the tweakers, tuners, and gamers out there. You know, you want live, real-time monitoring. That's going to be available to you. If you want improved audio experience when it comes to your headphone and microphone, the ROG front base gives that to you, in complementing the isolated sound design that we have as part of the Supreme Effects 2014 design that's on the motherboard. But you know, the OC panel isn't just something that can serve the normal user in terms of being able to put in your 5 1/4 bay like we've talked about in the past. You know, it's got an extensive level of really die-hard tweaker and tuning controls. You can do temperature monitoring. You can have the ability to do thermocouples attached to this for more advanced monitoring on different points, whether it comes to benching or different types of temperature monitoring. You know, you got the VGA hot wire technology to be able to overvolt and overclock graphics cards to even higher degrees. There's tons and tons of stuff in there, but that's part of the kind of the ROG DNA, is that, you know, you can even have more than what's just built onto the motherboard by quickly integrating these type of accessories onto the board.
And if there's anybody out there who's been using this with the Maximus series of boards, and who's
it's fully compatible,
looking forward to it with X99, it is of course available. And is this a new unit, or have we seen this in other?
Yeah. So the front base actually was released this year. You know, we made an announce for it actually at CES, but it came out a little while ago. But it's fully compatible right now with our entire range of ROG products, so across the board. Any current new ROG board does fully support the ROG front base.
Excellent. So apart from these, which I think are ROG exclusive, we have some other add-ons here that you might couple with these boards. Some of them come with, and some of them are sold separately, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of the segmentation, it breaks apart kind of a little bit. You know, as we get into kind of more detail on the boards, and we can you know, kind of scope that out. But in terms of what you see here, there are some generalized accessories that will work across all boards, so you don't have to feel that because you jump into one segmentation, you're limiting yourself. So the Thunderbolt 2 EX module that we have right here, a lot of users from the X79 chipset wish that they had a Thunderbolt. But now the great thing is with X99, every single of the X99 boards fully supports this. So you can go ahead and drop that in. You've got Thunderbolt 2 right off the bat. So you're good to go.
Now we just need some ASUS discount Thunderbolt cables. That's coming soon, I'm sure. All right, so we got Thunderbolt functionality. You said all these boards will support it. They got the Thunderbolt header, so you just need to buy that add-on card.
We've got, we continue support where we continue to also evolve the application and the software for our NFC Express breakout box. So this is a really awesome accessory that gives you NFC support as well as 2 front USB 3 ports.
Nice.
You can go ahead and plug it to any one of these boards, and it'll allow it to go ahead and do some really cool levels of functionality, such as quickly log into your system, auto launch multiple applications, stream audio from your devices. You can do all kinds of really cool stuff. So that's an awesome accessory.
You just take your phone, set it there, it'll automatically recognize and do a bunch of cool stuff.
This little guy right here is a very specialized module. So I guess, you know, beginning to get into some of the design features, of course, on the boards. You know, we've always been a big supporter of fan control functionality on our motherboards. And for the mainstream series specifically, this is an exclusive accessory. It comes included with the Deluxe, but is compatible for both the Dash A and the Pro boards.
Okay.
But pretty much what this will allow you to do is go ahead and have more headers. So the boards, like the Deluxe, comes with 6 fan headers. This is going to allow you to have 9 fan headers.
Nice.
But in addition to that, they fully support our Fan Expert 3 technology, so they have full fan calibration. You can do DC or PWM output control. It's got 3 additional temperature input sources, so that you can go ahead and leverage those input sources either on the internal headers, or you can drive them to the actual headers that are on the card itself. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, there's not any fan controller that you can buy in the market that's going to give you that level of control externally. And then when you tie that into the fact that that can immediately complement and be available to you within the UEFI or in the operating system, when you tie it into the board, it means you have a total of 9 fan headers that are all fully controllable and tunable and support calibration.
So this isn't just like a glorified splitter, like it's still going to see one fan and those 4.
Correct.
It's going to see each one individually.
Correct.
And then you also have temperature leads built in there, and of course direct power to provide power, and excellent. So if you need more fans, then ASUS has you covered.
And that's
going to work.
That's just for users that look at it from the core perspective, because of course the board supporting PWM output control means that you could also exponentially increase fan connectivity on the board even without that, because all you need to do is then just buy PWM splitter cable, pop it onto your fan header, and then all of a sudden you could have 3 or 4 more fans, but just powered by the PSU, but controlled by the motherboard on the headers that are on the board itself.
Okay, and then this little add-on card, a riser PCI Express card, which gives you an additional M.2x4 slot. And you were saying this was actually not a terribly difficult piece to add on and design, but from the way I'm looking at it, I'm already super excited to see M.2 ports across all these boards, and I really love the implementation as well. You have support for at least 2242 up to 2280 on everything.
Yeah, every board will support up to 2280.
All right, beautiful. But this one will allow you to add another one, and then you said you could also potentially software RAID those together.
Yeah, we've done some cool tests. I mean, it's crazy bandwidth because, of course, you're just using PCI Express. So if you want to get crazy, throw 2 of them together and throw a software RAID, then you're good to go. Just keep in mind, software RAIDs, of course, aren't bootable, so they work best generally if you're using them as a local volume. Okay. But you know, it's just an added level of flexibility that we've given to our users in terms of being able to go ahead and install the storage device the way that they would like to.
Now, it's obviously going to be very dependent on what SSD you have installed here, but any ballpark figures as far as sequential reads and writes?
Yeah, it totally depends on the device. You know, we've seen some next generation controllers that we can't speak too much, but definitely significantly faster than pretty much any numbers that you've seen right now, short of jumping into stuff like, you know, RAM caches or RAM disks.
All right, beautiful. So if you like to shoot 4K video and like to edit multiple streams, something like that is what I feel like an implementation like that's
high bit rate. You're into high. You're into uncompressed video, you're into high bitrate audio, you're into raw photography, that's a great option for you.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, which is something I know you guys are very proud of, is the 5-way optimization that was originally introduced with the Z97 series of motherboards. Of course, we've had 4-way optimization before that, but bumped it up to 5-way. That's available on the mainstream boards as well as the Workstation board, if I'm not mistaken. Now, if you guys are interested in a more hands-on demonstration of that, I will direct you over to the Jay's 2 Cents YouTube channel. He should have a video up on that now, if not now, very shortly, and you guys can see a little bit more of how that actually works.
5-way optimization is specific to the mainstream series and the WO series. For ROG, while it does feature 5-way optimization, the overclocking portion is executed through a feature that we call CPU level up. Okay. So that works off of 3 presets in terms of target frequencies, as opposed to the dynamic real-time auto overclocking options, which are executed on the mainstream or the WS boards.
Okay, and then just one more quick note about the auto overclocking. There's a few new functionalities that are built in there. So for instance, you can set you can actually set a specific voltage, is it a voltage ceiling that you can pretty much tell it to go
so
for?
You know, by default we limit the actual voltage to 1.3 volts, but you can go ahead and scale that up to higher voltages. So if you want to do, you know, 1.325, 1.4, assuming that you have cooling and you're willing to take on that risk as far as the amount of current that might be pulled through your CPU, you can do that. We also now have selectable AVX instruction sets, which allow you to have significantly higher thermal loads and a higher degree of stress testing to the CPU. It'll bring down the total ceiling, but allow you to conditionally make sure that the stability of the overclock is as far-reaching as possible for applications.
And when we were watching the demo you did with Jay, that actually had an effect. So with the AVX instruction sets, it didn't achieve as high of an overclock, but it's also testing AVX instruction sets, which means that when you use applications that do that, which Jay does, that's something you want to test for as well.
For sure.
Okay.
You got memory stress testing that's built into there. We have modifications to the actual auto-tuning rules where we can now start for pure stock value, allowing it to cover a widest range of CPUs to make sure that it can overclock even the, I'd say, the lowest overclocking capable CPUs that's available to you. And we have new, what's referred to OC tolerance options, which allow the actual auto overclocking to dynamically extend the overclocking range for a lower core count as opposed to an all-core count. So this allows you maybe in a situation to have 4.6 gigahertz on 4 cores, and then on, let's say, all cores, drops it down to 4.3. So there's just a huge degree. It's really the most comprehensive and complete auto overclocking utility which has ever been released by us, and definitely is far more reaching in terms of what you can do automatically and easily than any other product that's really out there.
Nice. I'm very excited. Jay was actually impressed enough that he recommended it. And Jay doesn't like automatic overclocking stuff. He prefers to do it.
We've had a lot of converts, I think, over time. You know, I'm a die-to-wool enthusiast, and I think the fact is I challenge any user day one, if they're a manual clocker, to come in and be able to produce the results that we can produce within 10 minutes by clicking a button and having it be system specific. So it's a really impressive tool, and I think the granularity that we're giving actually complements the tweaker and the tuner and the manual guy, because if you know what you're doing, you can go in and tweak those things and I'll have it dynamically occur for you.
And even if you're still a skeptic about this, go ahead and use it, try it out, and just use it as a starting off point. Yeah, and then go ahead and do all your manual tweaking that you want to do all on your own. But it'll give you, if nothing else, it'll give you a really good starting off point for that. But JJ has also thrown down the gauntlet that he thinks it'll stand up to even. I mean, it saves an amazing amount of time. I'll definitely give it that. That what we were able to get to in 5 to 15 minutes of auto tuning.
I would be able to do it.
Jay's confirming right now.
I've been overclocking for a decade. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Just impossible. So
well, and the big thing is it does actually what you do as a normal user. It actually goes through incrementally, raises frequencies, raises voltages, text temperatures, and does this all dynamically real time without you having to engage in it. And then it gives you a great report at the end of it. How many of us sometimes are saving screenshots, writing little things down on our notepad so that we can go back and check all this stuff? It does all that for you. So like you said, you can use it as a baseline, you can use it as a tool, but I do want to continue to stress, sometimes people, they've never heard of the option before and they're now just starting to realize it. This is not software. This is a pure interaction layer on a firmware and hardware process. You could install the whole tuning application, remove it from the system after it's done, and it's still there. The reason why is because it's been coded into the UEFI. So this is actually literally just an automatic process of taking literally the thousands of hours that we've worked on this platform since we started research and development and production on it, and just put it into a single and easy to execute program.
I think the one thing that you guys might still need to integrate there is for it to throw a temper tantrum when your 5960X can only hit 4.6 and not 4.7 on air.
I will make sure to discuss that with our
That's something for the ASUS engineers to take another look at. Yeah. All right, this has been a very long video, so thank you guys for sticking with us. And I'm going to JJ one last chance. Any last? I mean, I know there's more things. There's always more things. But any final things to mention here for
yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like you said, a lot. We continue to integrate our full isolated audio design on every single one of these boards. So for you guys that care about music, movies, and games, every single one of these boards feature full isolated audio design implementations. Of course, some of the boards are a little bit different than others, where ROG has some more options for virtual surround and there's specialized profiling options which are a little bit more complementary to, in-ear monitors, over-the-ear headphones, or desktop speakers on the mainstream series, but all the boards have that. Outside of that, all the boards are featuring all Intel NICs, which is, of course, a big plus. They all have packet priority software, too, that allows you to go ahead and optimize and tune for gaming, downloading, browsing, whatever you're going to be doing. And compared to the fixed NIC solutions, like something like a killer NIC, we can map our packet priority software to any port. So the advantage is, take for instance the Deluxe, and the Extreme, these both actually come. They're the world's first boards that feature full 3x3 811 AC wireless built on board.
Nice.
So that is extremely fast. It's actually the fastest form of desktop wireless that you can currently get in the marketplace. It's built onto the motherboard, and we can also still do packet and priority control to those wireless clients. If you decided to buy an add-in card for some preview, maybe you get our PCIe AC68 or a 4x4 client maybe that we release at a later date, you can do that. You can map it to any one of those ports. With a killer NIC, it's only going to prioritize that one single network connection. And when you talk about the Intel NIC too, its performance on UDP is unmatched, which is really where games live, is in the UDP environment. And the management control set is awesome. So there's a lot more. You know, we've covered different things in the past in terms of the UEFI enhancements. UEFI is absolutely awesome on here. A lot of really cool stuff. But you know, like always, we've put in a huge amount of design and work. And I think that if you guys look at the individual features and functions across here, value I think is something that always comes into play when somebody buys a board, regardless of it being $200, $300, or $400. We try to look at the perspective that regardless of the price that you pay, we want to try to give you the most complete experience, regardless of the price point, so that you really walk away with a sense of it. You have a great degree of value. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, and if you want to see more of JJ, if this hasn't been enough, go ahead and check out the ASUS PC DIY YouTube channel. You can see more of him over there. Also the PC DIY website, which is?
Yeah, it's pcdiy.asus.com. It's a great way if you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback. You know, one of the things I think that we're most happy about, and I think Paul can definitely adhere to this, is that we take feedback to earnest. I don't think anybody else is coming literally chipset to chipset and putting in the work that we're putting in the board. So if you guys have it, feel free to drop it my way.
I heartily agree. And thank you guys so much for sticking with us and watching this video. Don't forget to leave us some feedback down in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out, and we will see you all very, very soon.